Hello, everyone, and welcome today to your best real day. I am your host, Elizabeth Navarrete, with Wholesaling Live, and we are here in Houston, Texas, ready and super excited to bring on a fantastic guest. She is a short sale extraordinaire, the short sale queen. But before that, we also have my co-host today, Charles Nguyen, that will be joining us in the hot seat asking Nicole questions. So without further ado, Nicole Espinosa, thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to have you. And thank you for coming all the way from Dallas to be here with us today.
Literally.
This is literally like from Dallas, just hot, coming in hot, literally from Dallas. So thank you so much for joining us,
Absolutely.
Nicole.
Thanks, guys, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming here and welcome to your best real day. Maybe you can get into, we'll just jump into it. Can you tell us how you got into real estate in your first deal and your journey to get there?
So this is the hot seat, huh? Okay.
Yes.
So you said how I got into real estate in my first deal. So it's actually pretty ironic because the first deal I did was a short sale. But I was on the buying end and had no idea of anything. And the first listing I got ended up being no equity. So it's crazy how it all works out. It was supposed to happen. But I got into real estate because I started working for a REO broker, which was a foreclosure broker, back when foreclosures were completely flooding the market. And I really learned the foundation for what I'm doing now on how the banks worked and operated, working with asset managers, and how ridiculous that they are. And imagine working for them. Now we just get to work with them. So it's a lot better this way. But yeah, so I worked there for a couple years and got my license, got out of doing REOs and then kind of just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew I had all this knowledge, but I had no idea. I just knew I didn't want to work for the banks. And I honestly fell into short sales, just like I fell into real estate, which I'm sure everybody, I didn't wake up one day and be like, I want to specialize in one of the hardest transactions. This is a great idea. No, it was just, it kind of all fell into place. So, but yeah, the first deal I did, it was actually a buying transaction and I was representing the buyer and the lady was going to go into foreclosure in a couple weeks and he was paying cash and I had no idea what I was doing. And I was trying to explain to the agent on that side. No one's ever asked me that. So I don't ever get to share the story, but, I was actually explaining to the agent, I'm like, well, from my experience, you need to ask this, this, and this. Of course, I didn't have any idea. And she was able to get the approval, which I didn't even know what that was. I was just like, oh, cool, we can close. That's all I cared about. So that was my first experience.
Okay. Pretty neat. So maybe for the audience who don't understand what a short sale is, maybe explain what a short sale is.
Absolutely. So a short sale is where a homeowner has some type of financial hardship and they have to sell the house. So they're in foreclosure. A lot of investors are going to come across these properties that like the pre-foreclosure, the auction, because they have a hardship, right? They can't make their payments. So instead of bringing money to closing in order to be able to sell, we get their lender to take the loss. So we settle the debt with their lender and we settle all of their debt. So they owe nothing. Closing costs, our fee to represent them, nothing. So that essentially is a short sale.
Okay. So I guess maybe explain it in numbers so just as a quick example, maybe the last short sale you helped somebody do. So that
numbers meaning what an investor purchased at?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the last deal I did, my Lord, we were just doing 4 today. I'm just overdrive. But just to give you an example, so remember, it's an as is. So the bank is not going to make any repairs or anything like that. So the idea is that the investor is able to purchase when a lot of times investors will come to us and say, hey, what do I offer? Right? That's a really big question. What kind of loss is the bank going to take? And so the bank does not base what they're willing to accept based off of what the seller owes. Okay. So it has nothing to do with that. So we don't think about, okay, the seller owes 100,000. So I'm going to offer 70. It doesn't work that way. It works solely based off of what the as is price is. So whatever their valuation is of the property, that's what they're willing to accept. So they'll accept a percentage of that. So when you go into certain different types of loans, that's when it gets to, okay, FHA is 88%, or conventional sometimes is 70 to 80%. So it really just depends. But as far as an investor, we tell our investors, if you're going to put in an offer, put it in based off of what you're willing to offer. And then we do the negotiations based off of that. And then when the bank comes back with their valuation, we prepare the repair bids that you guys, provide us. We give a whole explanation of condition, and we go to bat based off of condition. Does that make sense? So it's really hard for me to say numbers because it's such a big question, and it depends on what type of loan that they're purchasing at.
I like that you say it depends, because that's really technically the right answer in real estate.
Right.
It depends, because it really does.
Yeah.
When you say valuation, are you talking about a BPO?
Yeah, it can be a BPO, which is a broker price opinion, or it can be a full-on appraisal. It depends on what the bank requires. So one of the deals we did today, the valuation was a BPO, and then if it's FHA or government, they order full-on appraisals.
Okay.
So it just depends. I guess that's
Depends.
the answer.
Right.
Okay. So, can you explain a little bit about, like, a lot of our audience they're going to be investors and maybe wholesalers.
Yeah.
How do they maybe change the way that they're thinking about it when they're going out to properties that may not have a whole lot of equity because of condition of the house or whatnot? What should they be thinking about? And then how do they go about kind of engaging, like you, as someone who's taking care of short sales?
Right.
Because I know a lot of investors are probably leaving money on the table because they go out to houses and they're like, oh, okay, too much repairs, no equity, I'm leaving.
Right. That's a great question, because a lot of people think one way, right? So they think, okay, so I need this much of a spread, and if it doesn't make sense, I'm moving on. But what they don't understand is, like you said, they are leaving money on the table because it's so one thing that we can all agree, whether you're a wholesaler, investor, realtor, whatever, is that it is expensive to get leads, right?
Yes.
We can agree on that.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you are going to spend all your time and energy getting a lead and then building rapport, you need to be able to capitalize on everything that comes in, right? There's nothing more defeating. I mean, it depends on, or it doesn't matter if you're a realtor, investor, it doesn't matter. We're all getting the same type of leads, right? We're just using them for different purposes. So once you build rapport, it's so defeating to then say, oh, I can't help you. So the way you should be looking at it when you're going into a house is, okay, I need a solution for every single lead that comes in. There should not be, unless it's, really bad. There should not be a situation where you can't figure out, okay, I'm going to wholesale this. Okay, so if wholesaling doesn't work, I'm going to sub to it. If sub to doesn't work, I'm going to do a short sale because there's no equity. And so short sale is one of the tools that a wholesaler or an investor can use if the numbers don't make sense. So the perspective that they need to have going into these appointments is, hey, you know what? I'm here to help. Let me see your situation, and then let me recommend what I want to do based off of the information that you provided. And when we come in being solution oriented, we not only build rapport quicker, but then we also are able to create more solutions for these homeowners.
All right. No, absolutely fantastic. So I'll just dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah.
So because what I'm kind of used to from a kind of a wholesaling perspective is a lot of times we look at short sales from the perspective of, the house has to be kind of in rough shape. Is in your experience, is that generally what short sales are generally made up of, is kind of rough house conditions, or do you also do a lot where they're kind of newer and like don't need a whole lot of updating?
So that is definitely the misconception with foreclosures and short sales, that it's got to be a house that's like, hanging by a thread.
Yeah.
And while we do have those homes, remember, the short sales are based off of the homeowner's personal financial situation. It's not based off the house. So while repairs and the house condition is definitely a contributing factor to someone being upside down because they can't afford the repairs and it has to be sold as is, anybody can be in a financial hardship. So we just sold a $475,000 house today. That was a beautiful house in, Highland Village that really needed very minimal repairs. So it's across the board. And then when you come to newer homes, you have these homeowners that in this market were desperate for homeownership, or these buyers that were desperate for homeownership. And so we saw a lot of that on the traditional side. So what we're seeing now is a lot of people that overpaid and they come across a financial hardship. So for investors, that's a great opportunity to think sub two. That's a great opportunity to think, hey, we could try to do something creative. And then of course, if it doesn't work, to do a short sale.
Okay. All right.
So when you're talking about financial hardship, give me some examples of that.
Yeah, so financial hardship can really be anything. It could be somebody, the most common we see are loss of job, divorce, because divorce is probably like top three, because you went into it and you had two incomes with one expense, and now you have two separate expenses with the same income. So loss of job, loss of income, divorce, death, sometimes death of a borrower. I mean, those are the most common, and then excessive debt. So people that just completely overextended themselves, and it becomes like a snowball effect where they're behind on everything.
Yeah. And there's that mental, I guess, that attachment. Well, it's emotional, obviously, but their mentality is that I'm going to figure this out.
Right.
And it's just, it never comes to that situation, right?
It's the worst.
I know because of the stories that, you shared in your book, which,
Yeah.
by the way, if you haven't bought Nicole's book, you need to go look for it.
I love her.
Short Sales.
Subtle plug.
Uncensored. Yeah, subtle plug. Go find it on Amazon. We'll put the link in comments below if you can get that for us.
The Audible
Charles.
is way better than the actual book.
And I need to get on the Audible. I haven't gotten on that, so I'm going to go do that, actually.
It's like $5. So
Okay,
it's
I'll
like
do
literally
that.
cheaper than Starbucks coffee.
But I want to hear your twist on it, because with your voice, yeah.
So a lot of people that read my book and that know me, they freak out because they read my book and they're like, oh my God, it sounds just like you. I can literally hear you talking. And that's why I did the recording, because no one would have been able to talk the way, you know what I mean? Like no one would be able to
Right,
convey
no.
what I needed to say. So I did it myself, and it was really fun, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in the book, I do have some examples. I could definitely write a whole other book on stories, but I won't do that until I'm retired, because then I'll never get clients because,
Yeah.
they probably wouldn't like being in the book, but I'll do that maybe eventually. But see, now I have ADD. What was the question?
Yeah, I'm actually, let's move on. Let's move on to something else. Actually, my question here is, let's talk a little bit about, this is a topic that you and I already discussed on another show, but
Yeah.
because this is a new show,
Okay.
let's talk about multiple heirs, reverse mortgages, and what was the other one?
We were talking about clearing liens or multiple
Right.
liens. So what do you want to talk about? So as far as reverse mortgages?
Reverse mortgages and the short sale process there.
Okay. So this question definitely comes up a lot with wholesalers and investors. Like, can you do a short sale with a reverse mortgage? And the answer is absolutely yes. Now, the motivating factors are a little bit different for these situations, because with reverse mortgages, the heirs are generally the ones that you'll be contacting, because that means that someone's passed away. The only time that a reverse mortgage can be in foreclosure is if the borrower has passed away or if they didn't pay the taxes. So those are the only two ways that they can actually be foreclosed on, because the concept of a reverse mortgage is that they are basically getting the house and not making any payment. So they've sold their equity to this loan. And then at the end of the day, when they pass away, they take the house back or the asset back and, be able to collect that way. It's a great concept, but the idea of not making a payment, they still have to pay taxes and insurance, which of course they're not explained to them. So a lot of them, if you think about this logically, if you are worried about $1,000 payment and you have to come up with $5,000 or $6,000 at the end of the year, what are the probability of you actually paying that? You know what I mean?
Very slim,
So
right.
exactly, because you're worried about not paying every month. So now you have to come up with the lump sums, which is why you see so many reverse mortgages in foreclosure. The other side of it is dealing with the heirs, which is why it's difficult with these transactions, because they don't have any financial consequences if it goes to foreclosure. So really their motivating factor will be living in the house longer as they go through the process. So you'll see a lot of the heirs that are upset because they got this house left to them and they don't understand why it doesn't have equity. And so explaining that, overcoming that, and we've been able to do, we have about, I think we had like 4 or 5 come in yesterday that Kimberly, she was saying yesterday, she's like, why are there so many reverse mortgages?
Yeah.
But we're seeing so many right now. And it's really talking to these heirs as we're pre-qualifying them, to explain to them, like, look, these are the benefits of you going through the process. So it's a controlled transaction. You don't have to worry about the bank kicking you out, and you'll know when it's, going for sale. So the bank will absolutely do a reverse mortgage. It's very straightforward since there's no actual financial hardship process like there is on a traditional short sale. It's really just about getting that appraisal done and trying to get it within, a reasonable as is price. They are a lot more difficult when it comes to price because you have one shot.
Yeah.
They are ordering an appraisal and they'll accept 95% of that appraisal, and that's it. And the only way to really fight it is to pay for a full-on appraisal. But it's a different process, but it can be done.
So thank you, Nicole. Tell us a little bit behind the scenes, because I've seen a lot, for example, on different real estate forums where you have people say, well, I'm in a short sale situation that I'm dealing with with a seller right now, distressed seller. It's a short sale situation. I'll figure out how I can help them. Now, somebody taking that on, that they don't do the volume that you do, because I know your hashtag road to 300, another subtle plug for you, right? That you're
trying.
That's your goal.
That's a goal.
So tell us a little bit about that, because I see that a lot when I see your post. I see hashtag road to 300, and tell us about the back end. So do you advise somebody, like, for example, I don't necessarily deal with short sales at any type, maybe one or two every now and then,
right? But
should I take those on, or should I get with you and you can help me?
So this will go into the riches are in the niches, like thing that you kind of posted or talked about, is that when you are highly focused on one thing, that's when you can become really good at it, right? So it's not like I'm a genius, right? I'm not like the smartest person ever, not even close, but it's all I focus on. And I'm hyper focused for the last 8 or 9 years on this one thing. And we do it at such a high capacity that you're going to be an expert. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? And so really what I've seen are the people that are so scattered, the people that are trying to scale their business and they're not focused on one thing, they never really are able to scale. They're never really able to, because their energy is split, right? And so they can't figure out all of the ins and outs because they're worried about this, and then they're worried about this, and they're worried about this. I mean, my biggest pet peeve as a realtor is seeing the realtors that are like, you can buy, sell, lease, this, that. I'm like, okay, so you don't do anything. Like, you do everything. So it's like, there's nothing special about you. You just have a license. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they just look lost because they're just like, seriously, can you use me for something? That's the image. You know what I mean? When someone thinks about you as an individual, as an entrepreneur, they should be able to identify you as something. And so that's the amazing thing about specializing and having a niche, is that that's all you do, and you hyper focus and you start branding in that way. And the other thing is that you're really able to service your clients so much better because you're just focused on that. So I use the example of realtor only because that's really common as you have the listing. But as an investor, it's the same thing. Like, you focus on one marketing, right? And you go all in on that one marketing. Look at those people as compared to the ones that are like, hey, I'm going to try to cold call, or I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to do this. And they can never scale because their focus is so spread out that, as well as I do, if you've never cold called, that it's a number game. It's a numbers game. So if I'm only calling 20, and then I'm trying to do something else, and then I'm trying to do something else, I'm never going to be successful. Right. And so really, and especially when it comes to difficult transactions like short sales, where guidelines are constantly evolving. I mean, I will tell you, and just because I'm very transparent, like I this week had this literally transaction from hell. And as I'm on my way here to the studio, it funded, and I literally wanted to cry. I was so happy. And I don't even care about the compensation. I'm just so glad I never have to talk about that property again. I'm sure everybody here understands my pain.
Oh, yes.
Like, everybody has that one property that just came to mind that you're like, oh, thank God, I don't ever want to talk about this again.
Absolutely.
And I had to jump through, I mean, I'll give you just like a brief synopsis that the servicer, it's a small servicer, they said yes. So we set up everything, and the investor said no, which does not happen. If we get an approval, we're done. It's like a slam dunk or whatever. And this was a big deal. Like, we had a lot riding on it for the investor, for the sellers, for the buyers, like everybody involved. And so we're set up closing. And then we're like, where's the approval letter? Where's the approval letter? And they never gave it to us because they said, oh, by the way, because the loan was so new, it was only about like 10 months or 11 months. The borrower passed away and whatever. It's a whole other story. But because it was so new, the investor said, we're not taking a loss. We went through the whole process, got the approvals, the everything. And so it's like, okay, this never happened before, right? So I had to find the investor. I had to track them down. I mean, and generally it's not this much effort, right? It's a lot of effort to get to that point. But once you're at the approval stage, you're done. Like you went over all the hiccups and all the hoops. And so I called every single day to Freddie Mac, and every single person was like, we can deny whatever we want. And I'm like, no, you can't, because this doesn't make sense. And so I'm like calling every single day and like taking this on. And because of our systems, like I'm not generally on the phone anymore with the banks, because we're automated, and the girls and whatever. And oh man, I called every single day, and I got the supervisor's contact information, even though they're untouchable, and like just plead our case. And we got them to tell the servicer to just move forward with the approval. And it was one of those things where you're like, okay, I just learned this. I learned this. And I'm 10 years, over 700 transactions later, right? But think about that. Like everybody said no. So most people would have been like, this is a dead deal. My whole office, they're like, Nicole, I'm sorry, we couldn't make this work. But it's one of those things that you have to look at the bigger picture. And I know from experience that I've been able to get other things like this done. So I'm like, no, we're going to go to the investor. We're going to find them. Like we're going to create a solution. And so circling back to your question, like if you're not highly focused and in this area, you're going to take no for an answer because you don't know any better, right? You don't know what you don't know. Right. And so it's a huge disservice to the clients. And short sales are only getting harder because there's only more and more guidelines. And if you're not in front of it, just like real estate investing, if you're not in front of it, you're not going to figure out a creative way to create a solution.
Yep, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, no, I love it. I love the attitude too, in terms of you're not going to take no. Because, right, I mean, anywhere in real estate investing, you have to just, you're going to hear no more than you will hear yes. So just
get used to that word, guys. Get used to the word. Embrace the word no.
Exactly. Actually, you do want a lot of no's, because those no's will definitely be lessons and will push you. If you have that resiliency, then you'll definitely forge through and pass that.
Yeah, you'll learn from every no. So
you will.
So it's really good. And so I guess you've got kind of all your systems on lockdown then, in terms of being able to kind of scale.
It's ever growing. As we scale, just like any business, I mean, as we scale, you just have to be so obsessed with the process. Like you truly do, because there are still things that happen that I'm like, oh my God, okay. And sometimes it feels like you're kind of just juggling all these balls and you're like, okay, which one do I get to first? But for sure, I mean, without the systems that we have in place, we would never have been able to scale this quickly.
Oh, nice.
Is there something currently in your business that you could say, if I could fix this, my business would be so much better, and I wouldn't be, I'm not saying you're overwhelmed, but I think all entrepreneurs at some point were overwhelmed. Yeah. So what is something in your business now that you could tweak and change and it'll all be much better for you?
I mean, I think every entrepreneur, and I think everybody believes that, like, if we could just replicate ourselves.
Oh, right.
I feel like
I know. I hear that.
Life would be so much easier. But, I mean, I think the one thing that could be better that we're actively working on is just constantly streamlining. Like, how can I remove myself as much as possible, but still be involved? So how do I scale without it being Nicole? So people are still getting that personal aspect without losing the personal touch, right? Because they're still our clients. We want to keep our relationships, but it's less time and energy on Nicole. And so that's something that I'm actively working on because I want everybody, I personally would rather take less business than do a crappy job. Like if we get to, and we're starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, it's becoming too much. Okay, we dial it back, because I truly believe like your reputation is everything. That's why I'm still here, right? That's why all of us are still here, and so it's really just automating and systematizing. I mean, that's everything. If you guys are, it's okay as a salesperson, entrepreneur, if you have a couple deals, right? You guys can run it however you want if you have a couple deals, but when you have 20, 50, 100, do you know how many human beings are involved in this? Like, and it doesn't matter how smart you are or how on top of it you are. It's just human nature. You're pulled in so many directions. Think about every transaction that you have, a buyer, seller, agent, in my case, bank or banks. I mean, there's so many human beings. So how do you have a system in place to be able to automate as much as possible, and then be able to, like, on my phone right now, I could check in and say, okay, what property, and I can pull it up and tell you all the notes. I mean, it's so important. So you definitely have to think about that as you're running your business, to streamline as much as you can, as much as possible.
Right.
Okay. And so in terms of streamlining, can you go over maybe some of the tools that you're using, or some of the key ones that you're using?
So as far as streamlining, we have Infusionsoft, which is our CRM that we're using. When you send us a deal, you go to this link. It's helpmewithmyshortsale.com, and it goes to this page, and it says, are you referring us to short sale? And it has all the information. It goes right into our CRM. They get a text message automatically saying, hey, Elizabeth referred you over to us. When's a good time that we can connect? So that way, it's instant. I'm not depending on one of the girls or myself to text them or call them. So when I'm still trying to train the investors I've been working with for years, like, can you use the link? Please use the link. Because they'll text me, hey, Nicole, I got a deal. I'm like, use the link. And that's just for the fact too, that it also creates a profile. And it tags, like if Elizabeth sent it over, it'll tag her, and her information's automatically there as the person that referred it. So we know she wants to purchase it. Like, it's just all there. So think about how many conversations that saves us. Like having to be like, hey, Elizabeth, we got your lead, or hey, seller, and then setting it up and doing all this stuff. So that was huge. I'm a paper to pen person. So it took me a really long time to give up my notebook. I love my notebook.
Right.
Like, I was like, no, I got this lead, and I could retain it and remember it. And then I remember Stephanie, she's my office manager, and she's phenomenal. She's really the person that's helped me a lot with the systems. I'm a salesperson. Okay. I got this, but she's like, okay, all right, I know you got this. Come on, let's figure out how to get more,
Right.
And she was like, you're going to have to give up your notebook. This was like 7 months ago. I'm like, I'm good. And then we went back and forth, and then she's like, Nicole, like, and I'm like, you don't mess, like, I got this. Okay. I've been doing this. And then I just remember I came to her one day, and I was like, it's everywhere. It's on Instagram, and it's Facebook, and it's text and email, and someone just called me. Like, I can't handle it. And she's like, okay. And so she had already set up the whole thing, and I embraced change, and I'm like, fine. And it's been such a game changer, because especially since I'm not calling all the leads anymore, it's been amazing for them to, first of all, like, say if I was here and I got 2-3 leads, they're able to get a text automatically. And we know that, like, time's of the essence with these distressed borrowers. So we want to make sure that they're touched, automatically. So, my suggestion, especially for investors, is to figure out, if you're doing mass marketing, or if you're doing, these cold callings, get a dialer so that you can do 3 or 4 at a time. And then that way, because again, I don't adapt very well with change. And I was like calling one by one, whatever. And Stephanie's like, oh my God, let me put you on Mojo or whatever. And she's turbo dial. She's like setting this up. I'm like, okay, what do I push? Okay, fine. I'm so old school, I'm like, no, I'm not going to remember. And, it's amazing. It also leaves like a voicemail. And I know everybody here that's been using it forever, they're going to be like, really, Nicole, but I know I just got it. So anyways, but
it was, what is it? Today year old when you found out.
Today year old.
Yes.
Anyways, I know what you mean.
So let's backtrack a little bit. So
Sure.
Embracing change.
Yeah.
Nicole, a year ago versus now.
Crazy. It's crazy. So I launched the Short Sale Queen nationally in February of this year. So it has not even been like, somebody do the math. I am so tired. I don't know. But it's been less than 6 months. And it's crazy because we've always been DFW and Houston short sale experts. So we were very hyper local. And the only reason why we even decided to go national was because we were just getting so many calls in other states. And so I just embraced it. And the Short Sale Queen was my nickname for so long that I was like, what if it was like in September, I'm like, what if I just brand underneath this? And I remember looking it up and hired a trademark attorney and got the patent. And I was like, okay. And then it's completely taken off. So it's been awesome. It's great for branding, like the Short Sale Queen. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've seen you evolve a lot and very quickly. And so I'm so proud of everything that you've done. And I know that there's still more. There's still, this is nothing. This is just the start, you guys. Nicole is going places, and you're really going to make it huge.
Thank
even
you.
more than you're already making. You're making a lot of impact, and especially as a female entrepreneur, I think that's so key because, we're in a male-dominated industry.
We talk about that a lot.
Yes, we do. And the few of us that are around, we talk about this, and it's like there's not a lot of women, and so it's so key for us to, when we're around, to collaborate and to empower each other.
Absolutely.
Let's just say maybe I don't send you any leads, but we're empowering each other because we see each other and we see that we're each growing. Maybe haven't grown as much as you have so quickly, but
please.
but I'm going. I'm right behind you. I'm right behind you.
No, you're right next to me. No, I totally agree. I'm so grateful to be able to constantly have platforms, to be able to speak. Like, I'm going to New Jersey this weekend. I got paid to speak up there, and I'm so grateful for it because of what you just said. We don't see it, and this is not like a feminist thing. This is just I'm so excited that we see other strong women on platforms to encourage other women to do it. Just because I don't know if it's like not self-confidence. I don't know what it is that stops them from doing it, from getting out of a supportive role and following their vision and dreams and things like that. But for sure, empowering other women to realize their potential and goals and what they can accomplish. So I definitely agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's a testament to women that you guys are, I call you guys, but you ladies
I say that too, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But you ladies are helping, pioneering a lot for women out there. And it's really good to see because, even from a male's perspective, it's kind of good to see a different perspective. Because sometimes women bring just a different perspective. Even meetings I've had with Elizabeth, it's just like she just brings a different perspective to things.
Absolutely.
So it's really good to see. And I love also hanging out with entrepreneurs who have the same spirit as you two, because it's always like, yeah, we're not done yet.
Yeah.
We're just starting.
Just starting.
Just starting.
Yes.
So it's phenomenal.
That's awesome.
It's good. So I did kind of have one question about,
Sure.
one thing that everybody is talking about all over the country, because you mentioned nationally, is the recession. Like, is it coming? Is it not coming? What's the deal? And, it may be particularly from your perspective, because you do a lot of short sales.
Yeah.
How do investors prepare for that?
So I actually, talking about that, I actually saw a statistic yesterday. It was an article that they were doing of homeowners that had underwater properties, right? So I track default rates because that is an indication. So if you're in an area and you want to know, okay, so is this a good area to invest in, or where should I spend my money in direct marketing? Start tracking to see where the foreclosure rates are, because the higher the foreclosure rates, the more opportunities. And so you see more people that need help. But I posted this in my Facebook group yesterday that roughly 5.2 million homeowners owe more on their home than it's worth at the end of the first quarter of 2019, representing 9.1% of all mortgage properties in the U.S. And then it's up by 17,000 properties from almost a year ago. And if you think about it, from almost a year ago, we were coming off this high these last couple of years of properties that the values kept increasing and increasing. So as you start to see it transform or shift into a buyer's market, that's where you start to see more and more people that are going into foreclosure because they don't have the luxury of doing price reductions. They don't have the luxury of waiting out on the market. So their options are limited. So if you think about it, the same homeowner that could sell their house for $100,000 and hopefully sell it quick, well, now they're on the market a couple months. They're having to price aggressively at $90,000, and since they're not only lowering the price to be competitive, their mortgage balance is constantly going up because they're not paying. So that's why you start to see a lot of people go underwater. It's a couple different factors. So as an investor, you should be in your local market. You should be tracking what areas the foreclosures are starting to increase so that you can see where to spend your marketing dollars to, get as much opportunity as possible.
Okay. And kind of maybe, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but from your crystal ball, what do you kind of see happening? What do you think is going to happen?
I've been saying for the last couple of years that I really believe in 2020 is when we're going to start seeing a huge influx of short sales. And I think I'm right because in this, even right now, we are bombarded. Like, there are so many new builds that are going into foreclosure. There's so many people, and a lot of it, we could do a whole other show on the type of loans that they do, but that they originate, but a lot of it's due to the fact that when they loosen the guidelines for lending, that's when you start to see, like, let's be real. If somebody has a 500 credit score, they should not be buying a house with 0% down. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? But people, they just, we don't learn anything, right? Mm-hmm. If there's no consequences, like, who cares, right? But ultimately, that's what we're starting to see the last couple of years, where people were getting more lenient. They weren't investing anything, or they were buying at their max. And so the problem is when you become house poor, right? You're like, I can afford $1,500 a month, but that's it. Nobody expects or prepares for one thing to happen to them in their life, right? A circumstance changing, like losing your job of income. And the statistic is, if you're more than 2 months behind, you can't come back from that. Because most Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So after 2 missed payments, they can't catch up. So they start becoming behind on everything else. Then they go to their bank for a loan modification, and it's just this domino effect. So if I had a crystal ball, don't quote me on this if I'm wrong, but I've been saying this for the last couple of years. I really believe 2020 is where we're going to start to see back, where it was like in 2014, where we're seeing more and more opportunities for investors to purchase.
Absolutely. And going back to that with the buying power, a lot of people don't really calculate truly what they can afford. Yes. And so, like you said, they're overextending.
They're relying on the loan officer.
They are. So, and the loan officer will tell them, this is your loan amount. But really at home, what you should do is, my suggestion, right? I'm not an expert at this, but I would suggest calculate how much your household income is. Then you multiply that by 2.5. And that gives you how much you can afford as far as a home is concerned. And that is your guidance there. You're not, as a first-time homeowner, you don't expect to buy your dream home in your first try, right?
Yep.
It takes you time. Get close to what you could afford and what you could work with, knowing that in 7 years you can potentially change and move to a bigger house, upgrade, move to where you really want to live, upgrade with, and as far as you want. But you also have to consider that your income has to increase as well.
Yep.
If not, you're not going to be able to afford that house that you truly want. So you have to make adjustments and say, well, I may not get the study that I wanted, that extra bedroom. I'm not going to get a pool this time, but I'll be in a good subdivision. You just really have to look and analyze what are your non-negotiables and what are the things that you really...
And don't buy at your max. I mean, like you said, you have to, a lot of people, I tell this to my agents that are doing traditional. I'm like, how is it smart to pay $10,000 for the appraisal difference just so you can have a house? Like, why would you want to be in a negative equity situation when you just bought the house? And understand that you have to prepare for the worst. So if something happens to where, you can't work an extra shift or whatever your job is, and you can only afford $1,500, then why would you put yourself in that situation? And a lot of professionals don't explain that because they want their commission or to get the deal done or do whatever it takes, but sometimes it's just not in the best interest of the client. So
absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah. So get your joint, just check your household income, and then you multiply that by 0.25, and that will give you the price that you should stay in. That way I'm not going to say safe zone, because you can't, like what Nicole said, what if you lose your job or you get sick and you can no longer work, but you will be comfortably where you can also set aside money to save. You have to invest as well, your money. You can't just invest it all in your home, right? I would say invest it. Right. That's not a good idea, but that's just my 2 cents and my suggestion there.
Yeah, no, I was going to hit that point exactly. Is, as real estate investors, we'll probably say live below your means and take that extra money and go buy more houses.
Yeah, absolutely.
With it.
Yes.
And so just a reminder for folks who are on the Facebook Live, feel free to ask any questions and we'll have Nicole answer them as well. So kind of maybe just changing gears a little bit, Nicole, because you've got a lot of energy. So, I like to talk to folks about kind of their culture at their office.
Yeah.
And like, what things are you doing in particular to create a culture at your office so that everybody loves being there and wants to be there until they retire?
So I love this question, and I don't think that this gets talked about enough, because I think people talk about building a company, they talk about hiring, but they don't talk about what it takes to retain talent. And for me, culture is everything. And what we do in our office, first of all, we're all in. and it's all of us, right? So everybody has their role, but I'm right there with them in the trenches. And I think that's really important because they see me there all the time, and they see that I'm willing to, I'll go to the girls if I see they're overwhelmed. I'm like, hey, what can I take off your plate? Do you know what I'm saying? So yes, I'm your boss, and yes, whatever, you answer to me, but I'm right there, right beside you. And I tell them, I'm like, we're a team. So this job is already stressful enough.
Yes.
Like, we can't have pettiness or passive aggressiveness. Like, there's not a passive aggressive bone in my body. I'm just aggressive. So I do not have the time to guess why you're upset. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
Be straightforward, tell me, get it off your chest. Let's move on, because conflict is a part of life. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to learn how to work together. And especially because I have all women working in my office. Right. So the opposite. So we
Yes.
know women can be catty and petty and passive aggressive. And I'm like,
What?
you would
No.
not like working. You would not like working for me. Like, I will just call you out and make you uncomfortable. And no. And so and it's funny because every hire I have anxiety, because I'm like, don't change my culture.
Right.
Because
Yes.
honestly, if you don't fit into our culture, I don't care how talented you are. I would rather you not even work with us, because to me, you're going to change the dynamic. And ultimately, if people are treated the right way and they want to be there, they will work 10 times harder for you than someone that, is just like, I'm here to collect a paycheck. No matter how talented they are. And you see that, right? Because when you're passionate about something, you don't think about, okay, well, it's 5:01, I've got to go. Right?
Yeah.
No, you don't think about that. You're like, hey, I got to get this done. And we're all in this together, So we have that kind of culture. And, the other thing is really being very clear and setting the expectations. Like, we are all really, cool or whatever. But the most important thing is that we get the job done, because otherwise I can't afford to pay you.
Right.
And we have no job. So, and all of the other cool thing that I implemented last year is that anytime I go to make a hire, like, everybody has to be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just me bringing someone in. Like, my office manager has to sign off on it. Girls have to meet her, because they're going to be there 8-9 hours a day next to them. And we want to make sure that, like, they're all working together.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal, because I caught onto that earlier in the conversation when you said you picked up the phone and started calling people. I'm like, that's a true sign of a leader. It's like,
Yeah.
they're not afraid to, jump in when necessary, right? I'm always a big fan of make sure you empower your people,
Mm-hmm.
but, help them whenever you have to. So
Yeah, they
that's-
have to feel like you're in this with them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because you also keep the lines of communications open. And like I said, the other day I was at the office, and one of my admins was there. It was like 6 o'clock, and I'm like, what is she still doing here? And she wasn't done. So she kept going. And so that kind of stuff you can't train. You can't train someone to care.
Right.
So I am so blessed, because I have amazing, phenomenal ladies that are in my office. And it was one of those things, like, one at a time. We hire one at a time. And I'll tell Stephanie, I'm like, we did good on this one. We did good, because it's so important. Your employees will make or break you. Like, as an entrepreneur, I think sometimes I see so many people that go into business and they're so full of themselves, and they're like, I make the sun come out every day and all this other stuff. And they hire, and then their business goes to shit. And it's like, because look at the people you hired. It's not all about you. It's about the people around you that are supporting you, because that's the only reason why you're here. There's no way I could be the short sale queen, or the short sale queen would exist without my girls. Like,
That's right.
I'm nothing without them. So they need to understand that too, that they're such a valuable part of the company.
Okay. Yeah, no, spoken like a true leader. It's
Absolutely.
all about the team. So great. So do you do anything else to kind of maybe incentivize them? And also maybe you can walk through a little bit about, because I get the question all the time, how to hire people.
Yeah.
So how do you answer that question in terms of how to hire people?
How long do we have? That's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
So I think just a couple like quick tips is hire intentionally. And what I mean by that is, you have to figure out in your organization what you need, right? You need to map out, okay, so I need this type of person with this type of personality and this skill set. It's that detailed. And if you don't, most people are attracted to people that they're like. So they end up hiring their buddy or their friend or somebody that they like. And then it goes to shit, because they're like, oh my gosh, why didn't it work out? Well, you just hired somebody, like I talk in DISC, like, the DISC profile
Right.
test.
Yes.
So I'm like, you hired somebody that's a high D and you needed a C. You needed someone that was like very constructive and very detail oriented. And you hired someone that's a salesperson like you. Like, of course it didn't work out.
So you hired a promoter and not a visionary,
Yes.
or you didn't hire a
like a systems person, like admin, or
what is that? The integrator. You don't
Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
integrator, which is really the core of your company that's going to make it happen. Because I think you're a visionary and you're a promoter,
Oh, 100%.
right? Yeah, that's
So
Yeah.
obviously, we have to wear different hats. So
Right.
at one point in my business, did it all. Right. I was every department.
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's really important too, because I'll go to the girls and be like, this is how I did it. So it's not like I'm sitting here like, don't know what your job is. Like, no, I did your job, my job, her job, their job. So I know, guys, but so hiring intentionally is a huge one. Identifying what kind of personality would fit for that role.
Mm-hmm.
And then, really making sure that they fit in with your, whatever your vision is, and making sure that they understand that and you're able to articulate it. Because as salespeople, I mean, we're a shit show. I mean, the best way, I had a team lead that basically said, we're here as the visionaries to kind of make the mess, and then we have to have the people around us to clean up the mess. But we have to make the mess. I mean, we have to, because that's how we grow and that's how we get business. But if you hire a bunch of people that are making messes, like, you're not going to go very far.
right. No.
So you have to figure out, what that looks like for your organization. So I'd start there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So, I guess, where do you kind of see your company going, right? Because in terms of, in a year, where do you think you're going to be?
So it's a big question. I'm actually doing my 5-year plan right now.
Mm-hmm.
I hired a coach, and because I feel like you should always have like a high level of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually just talked this morning, and he's like, have you done your 5-year plan yet? I'm like, no, remember, Friday's the due date. So I'll have it done.
True entrepreneur.
Right.
Thursday at 11:59. Come on,
Yes.
But so a part of what I've been mapping out and what I see as far as for the short sale queen is to really, this year was the road to 300. And so I want to have 300 closings, 300 homeowners that we've helped, which is very ambitious. And I don't think that I really fully understood how ambitious it was until we started every month, like, okay, all right, we're getting there. But that was a goal this year, was road to 300, 30 listings a month and 30 closings a month. But as far as next year, I mean, I want to do 500 closings.
Road to 500.
Road to 500.
Yep.
Yeah. Change
So,
the domain name.
I know, exactly.
Exactly.
So, but there's a million things that go with it. We are in 12 states right now, which is a lot. So really just mastering where we're at. We're licensed in a lot of them, but getting licensed, we partner up with agents if we're not licensed. And so really just fine tuning, because all of this happens so freaking quick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want to put the cart before the horse. So next year, hopefully, if we talk next year, it's like, wow, Nicole, you did this. Yes, I did. I systematized everything, So that's what I'm working on.
Okay. No, neat. Okay. So, and what's your daily schedule actually look like?
My daily schedule. So every day is different. I have 2 kids, so
Yes.
it is a mess in the morning. So I wake up early before them, because in order for me not to be stressed out during the day, because I'm pulled in so many directions, in the morning, I'm doing making sure that I'm taking care of any emails or any fires or anything like that. So I know, really planning my day. And I'm dropping them off at school and going to work. And generally I'm at the office by 8 a.m. Unless I have an appointment or things like that. We do a staff meeting in the morning, so we're all on the same page with tasks and hey, is there any problems? We try to leave that. We try to do it daily so that we have the lines of communication open, especially we don't want things to carry over for days or weeks and things like that. And then it's whatever I need to do for that day. I mean, it's, like I said, every day is different. So if I'm speaking or if I'm working on my business, I try to time block working on my business as much as I'm in it. So as much as I'm in the trenches, I also try to take a couple hours a day to figure out like, what do we need to do as far as the systems? Like, okay, if Kim's here, is she over her capacity, tracking the data, tracking the leads, things like that. So I do spend a couple hours every day doing that. And then my phone's ringing off the hook. So answering it in between.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you got 2 kids. So how do you balance the work-life balance for you?
I don't think that exists.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because
That's a unicorn.
Yeah. And if somebody has figured it out, go ahead and post here and you let us know how you
Right.
balance.
Yeah.
Look, real estate is so integrated. Okay. So this week I'll give you a perfect example. This week I'm going to be in New Jersey on Friday. So I'm speaking Friday and Saturday. Okay. And then on Sunday and Monday, I'm taking a train to New York and we're going to go sightseeing. And then on Monday afternoon, I have a meeting with a title company because we're partnering up with someone there. Do you know what I'm saying? So I just feel, I went to California with my kids 2 weeks ago before school,
Cool.
had an amazing time with them, and then also scheduled with one of my partners. So it's one of those things where I just feel like I actively, instead of having the guilt of, oh my gosh, am I working too much or am I doing too much, is just being present where I'm at. And I feel like that's the best advice I can give, is just to, especially if you're a mom too, like if you want to add that component and to have some type of life, it's just understanding that we can't do anything about being busy, but we can be intentional about being present where we are right now. So if I'm here, I'm with you guys here. And then my mind's not everywhere else. If I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. So I don't think that balance exists. I just think that we have to be more intentional of planning it. And that's an everyday struggle for me. I mean, because when I'm busy, like I tend to put myself on the back burner. And so that's an everyday struggle for me. I'm still learning it.
You know, I can attest to that, you being present. And because how many lunches or happy hours do we go with colleagues? And it's either you're looking at the top of their head because they're looking down at their phone. But with you, it's not like that. With you, it's like if we're going to take
engaging.
2 hours, we're actually engaging. And it's like 2 hours. If a camera were running while we were talking, it would be so interesting. But we won't, and that'll never happen.
We won't do it on live.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that you're always present, and that's key, because that's you giving back of a little bit of you to others, and so I appreciate that. But that's totally true. That's so you.
Oh yeah. No,
Best thing you can do is
absolutely.
give the best thing you can ever do is give someone your time, and like your time is the most valuable thing you have.
Right.
So you have to be that way.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm here, but I'm not really here. And if I said I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna be here, so I can get the most out of
Exactly.
my time, with networking or engaging or things like that.
Yep.
No. So definitely all of our audience, you definitely want to listen to that, right? Just be in the moment and make sure you're there.
Yeah.
Because I just recently came back from vacation too, and it's like, yeah, just be there. I mean, there were times where I had to leave just for work.
I mean, that's life. Yeah.
But because we're never really on vacation.
No.
Right.
Definitely not.
We might be not at home, but we're still
Oh, yes.
attached usually.
Absolutely.
So, okay. And do you have any recommendations for kind of people who are just getting started in the real estate business? That you would say?
Recommendations, like
Just-
advice?
Yeah, just advice, general advice.
This business is exhausting. And I say that because if you come into it with the idea that this is quick and easy money, or that it's very lucrative, you will burn out. So really check yourself on why you're in real estate, right? So all of our motivating factors, our whys, whatever you want to say, whatever your thing is. For me, I say motivating factors. That's what I talk about with clients. But what your why is, that's what you have to figure out, why you're doing something, right? If you do it for the money, you're never going to sustain how stressful this can be. I mean, in any business, not just real estate. So the advice I can give is that your mindset really, truly is probably the number one thing that you have to work on, more than lead generation, more than anything else, because it's exhausting. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Don't be stubborn. Don't be like me when I first started and I was like, I got this, I'll figure it out. Value relationships, value networking, value learning and growing, because we never stop growing. And if you come into this business or in any business with that mentality, you'll be successful, because the people, like what I love about things like Wholesaling Live is that I remember when I came into this business, there's nothing like that. There's nothing. There's so much information now, and people that are successful that are willing to give back. So really, there's no excuse not to be successful. I mean, you just have to listen and apply. I mean, literally, listen and apply. And so you guys are bringing in at this event, like, people that are going to give real tangible things, not fluff, not BS, not any of that. And so I appreciate that. And that's why I'm absolutely going to be a part of it, because I love being around like-minded individuals that are just willing to open themselves up to be like, you know what, I get it. I was there too. Here, this is what I did. Mm-hmm. And that's so important, you know, because there's not going to be many places or events where they're not trying to pitch you and say, you know, buy my coaching program, blah, 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 whatever. I mean, this is genuinely people that are on stage that are like, this is what I did. And this is what you can do if you want to start. So.
And I love that that the lineup is everyone on the lineup believes in being real, being hardcore, just raw about what is going on. Because how many times do we hear just the good side of it, like you said, and we don't hear the chaos that goes behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
And that is masked very easily. Everyone is really good at masking how I'm killing it, I'm doing great. Here's this check, but okay, so
but by the way, I'm still negative.
Right, exactly. Like, first of all, how many people did you owe from that check?
Yeah.
And then how many delays did you have to receive that check? So those things, it's like, you know, mindset is key. And I truly believe, and I think you've seen me say this before, I truly believe in hitting that reset button, because we have to. We can get overwhelmed. We can get stressed out. We can say, you know, this is just not working. When you've honed in on your marketing efforts that this is working, and then guess what? Things change and your marketing techniques completely you have to restart or adjust, and that's scary. So you said something key. You will burn out quickly, but not just burn out mentally, you will also burn out financially.
Yes.
If you don't have your systems in place from the start.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and I can definitely attest to, you know, if one marketing channel goes down, then we don't have time to go into maybe another day. I'll give you an exact example when a marketing channel goes down.
Yes. That'll be a whole other show. See, look how many topics you're coming up with right now.
Yeah,
I love that.
You know, because we've all got our own struggles, but you know, I think the key thing is everybody's got a positive mindset at the end of the day. Yeah. Because I think I even talked to Elizabeth this morning. I was like, yeah, this morning was pretty rough. But within 30 minutes of it being rough, then it became more positive. So you know, we just got to always be positive. So so a couple quick last questions for you, Nicole. So as we kind of wrap up, and one thing we like to ask, right, is, you know, let's say your business, right, you're actively scaling now, and you're working on your business instead of in your business all the time. So let's just say you had everything dialed in, right? You're on the road to 500 next year.
Okay, hold on. I'm mentally picturing it. Okay.
Yes, visualize it.
Visualizing it.
So everything's on autopilot, and whether you come in to work or not, then the day's still going to happen.
Yeah.
At your office, what's your best real day actually look like?
See, I'm still going to keep growing. I mean, I would probably be building out other parts of my business. I mean, with my team. I mean, I don't know how not to grow. I don't. And I want to work less for, you know, quality of life, whatever. But I'm so passionate about what we're doing that, you know, yes, I'm tired. Yes, I get burned out. And right now we're kind of like dealing with the growing pains and things like that. But, you know, on a perfect day, everything, and I could not show up to the office and it's going to be fine. Like, I mean, I don't go into the office all the time. I went in March, I went to California for this retreat. I don't even know what to call it, but, and I was out of pocket for like 4 days and everything was fine. And so that was an amazing feeling. Now, it probably wouldn't have stayed fine if I didn't come back, but it was fine. Everything got done. The girls felt empowered. So it was awesome. But, you know, on a perfect day, if all that was in, I mean, I probably would just figure out how to scale even more, or just fine tune other things. I mean, I'm just going to constantly keep making it better. That's the best answer I can give.
Well, that's a good answer.
And maybe on a beach.
Yes.
From the beach.
From the beach.
Yeah.
Perfect. Love that.
And is there anything us or the audience can do to help you get there?
Absolutely. So if you come across a distressed homeowner You can go to helpmewithmyshortsale.com and we can help you with that. So basically, investors that you're coming across properties with no equity and you need help with someone to facilitate the process, we can help you with that.
Okay, great. So if they want to get a hold of you, then they should go to help.
If they want to get a hold of us, they can go to, or they can call us at 972-832-2621, or they can just go to the website.
Okay.
And we'll post a website in the comments
So, okay.
very soon.
Yeah. And any last words for the audience, Nicole?
We will see you at the wholesaling event live. I'm so excited to be there. I'm going to be talking about really diving into how to find these distressed sellers, how to turn more of these dead leads into opportunities, and hopefully adding value to your business.
Okay, great. Well, we definitely look forward to having you at Wholesaling Live, October 4th, 5th, and 6th out here in Houston. And we'd love everybody to join us as well. And again, thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
And we hope everybody out there is either having their best real day or taking the steps so that every day can be your best real day.
Thank you.